Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Waxing Table podcast. I'm Michaela, and I'm so excited to be chatting with y'all today. Today, we're diving into something that is super important as an esthetician. We're going to be talking all about ingredients and understanding cosmetic formulation. And I'm so excited to bring on a very special guest. Her name is Anniezei. Is that correct? Anniezei?
Yes,
Perfect.
uneasy.
Anniezei. And she is the Skin John on Instagram, and it's also the name of her business as well. Um, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling really good. How are you?
I am so good, so good. I'm so glad that you are on here and that you reached out to me because I think it is so important for us to dive into like ingredients as an esthetician because we deal with products all day long. We literally treat people's skin all day long, and so it's important for us to understand how ingredients function in the skin, and what we should be using, what we shouldn't be using, and just having a well-rounded knowledge of everything. And beauty school doesn't teach us a lot about ingredients, really. They really don't. They just focus
At
on
all.
helping us pass day board. So but we want to learn a little bit about you first. Talk to us a little bit about you, how you became an esthetician, and like what inspired you to get into the cosmetic formulation.
Definitely. I became an esthetician after I wanted to do the formulating. So initially, my whole goal was to create a line that helped cater to my husband's skin. My husband has seborrheic dermatitis, and I've been trying to like concoct little things just to help manage his symptoms. He's dealt with it since he was a child, and in 2019, that was my main goal, was to formulate a line that would work for him. And at a certain point, I just kind of stopped because in my head I said I don't know enough, so I want to go to esthetician school and get more knowledge, which of course, as we all know, esthetician school is kind of basic when it comes to ingredients, but it gave me more insight into the skin to delve deeper into it. And then I was able to continue my research as a cosmetic formulator to build my line and then also help lead other estheticians down the same path of making their own skincare lines.
I love this. I love it so much. So, how long have you been an esthetician and cosmetic formulator? You said you started off cosmetic formulating first, right? And then you moved
Yes,
into esthetician.
yes.
Okay,
So I've been an esthetician for 4 years and then a cosmetic formulator for 5.
nice. I love
Yeah.
it. Cool, cool. So, okay, let's break it down a little bit. What do you um how important is ingredient knowledge, you think? As an esthetician, how important do you think on a scale of like 1 to 10, or how important is it for us to understand ingredients?
It truly is like a 20 because when it comes to ingredients, we need to know for each client what will work for their skin. And if you don't understand what ingredient you might be using, that leads to irritation, that leads to things being unbalanced for your client. And we want to make sure that with clientele that we know what we're using and how to use it properly. I think a lot of estheticians come into it thinking, oh, whatever products are available on the market are going to work. I should just know that. But you have to take the time to actually, niche down and understand what product lines to use so that you're catering to your clients in the proper manner.
Yes, I completely agree. So because I'm primarily like in the hair removal space, do you think I need to what do you think I need to look out for? Is it more so let me focus on this product line that caters to the bikini area or intimate areas, or should
Mm.
I be looking at like a product line that is just good for the face and I could use it for intimate areas as well? How do you think that space should be?
I think for waxers, because I'm a big waxer as well, that's most of my clientele. I focus more on products that are more of the exfoliants. Those are the ones I'd focus on because let's be honest, we don't know what our clients are doing at home. So you don't want to take any type of wax, sugar, however you remove hair. You don't want to take the exfoliant ingredients onto their skin and then be concerned like, oh, I lifted. I don't want to lift anybody's skin. I don't want to hurt anybody. So we have to know more about those ingredients so that we can continue to teach our clients how often to use them. I had one client who would tell me, oh, like she was a first time client. She told me, oh, I exfoliate pretty often. I said, oh, how often? And she told me twice a day. I said, okay, how many days? She said 7. I said, 7 days a week, you're exfoliating twice a day. She said, yeah. And I was like, that's a huge issue because your skin barrier is probably completely out of whack. And now you want to get waxed. I don't even want to touch you at this point because I'm concerned of what's going to happen if I lay down this strip of wax. That could be the end for you today. So
Yes.
with a lot of clients, they think they're doing the right thing because they're using, oh, I'm exfoliating. I'm supposed to exfoliate, but not knowing how often, what they should be using, especially when they're waxing. It's completely different from when you're using it on your face because most people don't wax their face every day, so they're not worried about exfoliating a couple of times a week. So it's more about, for waxers, more of doing the research on ingredients, even if they're not using retinols or all the other exfoliants that might go into skincare on the face, learning about the ingredients so they can still teach their client not to use them or how often to use them.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So let's kind of stay at exfoliating for a little bit. There's
Mm-hmm.
different types of exfoliants, as we know. There are the chemical exfoliators. We have enzymes. There's also the physical exfoliators or the manual exfoliator, where there's the dry brushing and
Mm-hmm.
the exfoliating gloves. There's all different types of methods, and I try to really cater um, each one to the client because I don't think every single client needs I don't think every client needs a chemical exfoliator. I don't think every client needs a dry brush. Sometimes you kind of have to mix it up a little bit.
Right.
Um, and so, but acids, they're very popular. Everyone wants to use some kind of acid, and I think they're very beneficial. But
Yes.
I think sometimes we could use the wrong acid on certain skin types. Glycolic acid is a really big acid, and it's very popular, but I don't think it's as effective on skin of color when you're using it consistently like that. There are other acids that I think that are really good. Like I love lactic acid or mandelic acid.
That's my favorite.
I love them. Yes.
My
What is
favorite.
your opinion and what is your take on that?
Like you said, I believe catering to the client is first because we don't know what we're dealing with, whose skin does what. You have to learn it. Everybody's skin we're learning as we're going along. So choosing the acid goes with the client. I do believe that glycolic and salicylic in certain usages, like usage rates, can be like beneficial for the client, but it depends, and you really are just playing a little game of like tit for tat and figuring it out along the way versus, oh, initially I already know you're going to use a 10% glycolic and that's all it's going to work. You have to play
Hmm.
with the amounts
Yeah.
versus just thinking one way is going to be the only way.
Yeah. So how do we decipher between like what to use? Because I know we can, if we overly use acids and the wrong acids, we can
Mm-hmm.
end up losing pigment on our skin color. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have areas on my skin where I've overly used glycolic acid. There's like some serums that I would use for ingrown hairs, and it just, I was experimenting and I was still understanding it, and I'm just realizing like, oh my gosh, like I have hypopigmentation now. Like how do I how do I even begin to like address this problem? What do I even like start with trying to figure out what exactly is for me?
I believe going low and slow. I think
Okay.
when people purchase products, they think the higher the percentage, the better it's going to work, the faster it's going to work. And that could be possible, but the problem is that, okay, the faster that it works, there goes that hypopigmentation that we're talking about. It's working a little
Hmm.
too well. So maybe we should
Yeah.
start a little bit lower of a percentage. When people usually see products, usually that's one of the things that they promote more is this 10 percentage glycolic acid. That's something that they promote. Maybe find something a little lower, 5% to start, because there's no reason to obliterate your skin just because you want to get rid of the hyperpigmentation that you should use such a high volume. Everything works at different usage rates, and that's why when people kind of look to products, their first thing is that number, like, oh, I need to see the highest percentage I can find. Or they'll think, looking at the top of their ingredient list, I need glycolic to be number one. It shouldn't be. There's usage rates for each ingredient, and everything needs to be balanced within a product. So it's about taking your time, using the product low and slow. You'll get to the final finish line once you've taken that time to test out the product.
Yes, I completely agree. There's been a lot of aftercare lines that I found that don't really have the percentages on there. So I think sometimes I'm like, okay, it has this ingredient, but what's the percentage? Like, how do I know it's doing what it needs to do, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think for most with the ingredient labels, they don't have to say the percentage. I think a lot of people use it as a selling point, of course, because
Mm-hmm.
then people actually know, like, okay, it's this much percentage. But looking at the ingredient label, as most estheticians, I believe, do know, it's the highest percentage to the lowest percentage. And it being at the bottom doesn't mean that there isn't any in there. It just means it's at a lower percentage, or even its usage rate might be pretty low. I was telling a client that was interested in a hyaluronic acid, and they're like, I want 100% hyaluronic. I want it to be as hyaluronic as possible. I'm like, that's not possible. You're going to end up with jello because hyaluronic acid plus water becomes that gelatinous kind of silky serum that you love. But
Mm.
the better rate to use it as for most people is 1%. That's perfectly fine for any one person is 1%, because the higher the
Wow.
percent goes, the closer it becomes to being that super jello, even hard, and like a hard jello, like you could punch through it and leave an imprint. That's how thick it could get if you continue to increase the percentage on hyaluronic acid. So I think it's, again, that knowledge of what ingredient you're using to be prepared. And with the labels, if you just kind of take your time and think about each label as, oh, this is a total of 100%. If this is at the highest, which is closer to being maybe 50 to 75% of a product, then you can kind of get a gauge for what everything else is below it.
Mm, okay. I love that. I did not know that the 1% is really what is the most common percentage for hyaluronic acid.
Yes, it's
That is
pretty
very
low,
low, but I mean,
but everybody uses it
that's
and they can tell it works.
yeah. Oh my,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow, I love that. Okay, cool. So you offer some things for estheticians. So if I were to, want to have my own skincare line, if I like I said earlier, sometimes it's hard to find exactly what percentage of the ingredient is within a product. And if I wanted to create my own line, like how do I go about that? Like how do I like know where to start in that? Do I focus on moisturizing mainly? Do I need to focus on, exfoliating mainly? Where do I even like begin if I wanted to just like kind of dive into that space? Because I've found that like a lot of estheticians want to do that and want to carry their own line, but they don't know
Mhm.
where to start.
Exactly. So for me, I always tell people who the only idea that they have is that they want a line. I tell them to mood board it, like kind of go on Pinterest. What are your favorite products? Put up all the products that you believe in, like the ones that you feel might be lacking in something. Like, oh, this product is great, but I wish it just had more moisturizing, or the texture is off, or the color, the extracts that might be in it aren't what I would want. Mood board as many of the ideas of the products that you do like already or don't like, because that even helps. Like, this product could be better if it was this, or if it did this for the skin. So kind of mood boarding it, figuring out what they love and hate, and then trying to make them better. And then from there, looking at the ingredients that are prominent in the product. Because most of these products, you're probably looking at, oh, niacinamide is their star product, or hyaluronic acid, or retinol, or peptides. Any one of these are usually the standout product and why people promote it a certain way. So look at those and start to take like a note of, oh, this is why I like all of these products. Most of them have the same product or ingredient inside of them. So I'm going to continue to go down that path and write down everything that you do and don't like. And when I first speak to people, I ask, what is it you're looking for? What's your main service that you provide? Because an esthetician who focuses on facials shouldn't be looking to start a body care line. It's hard for you to jump into something that you're not already doing. So let's focus on where you want to start. Most of my clients deal with hyperpigmentation or acne. Let's start there. Let's focus on, do you want to start with a serum, a moisturizer, cleanser? What do you feel will be that best selling product that'll fly off your shelves as soon as it gets there? So we start from there, knowing what you service and who you can service it to. And we make the steps to pretty much come up with an idea of what ingredients will play best together. And from there, I usually get people to test a sample after 2 weeks so that
Mm.
they get an idea. They get an idea of what it looks, smells, feels like, if it's the right color, whatever they want inside the product, we can formulate into a sample that I usually tell them to test at least 2 weeks, just because you want as much information about the product as possible. And with that comes either them using the product or they have like a golden client, which, oh, I trust this client with my whole heart. They usually give me all the feedback, let that person test it, because let's be honest, I'm not super acneic, so testing out an acne product wouldn't work for me often. So I'd want to go to my client who has that acne and can actually show me some results. And that usually works out best for a lot of my clients because they know and they trust their client enough that they'll get the right feedback that they need to say, okay, this can go in the line or this can't go in the line, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You can trust your clients to be super honest with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
Exactly, man. That's that raw feedback that you can't get from anywhere else, I feel.
Yes, exactly. So what's your consultation process like when you are working with clients?
Consultation is pretty easy when people come with ideas, but if they don't come with ideas, usually, like I said, I speak about what clientele they service, what service they provide the most, and then we decide what product we're working on first. And I
Mhm.
usually can start to write down a formula really quick that just gives me an idea of what the star players are. And from there, I'll tell them, let's make sure that these are the ideas that we want, write down the pros and cons list of any ingredients that you're interested in or things that I can outsource because I don't carry everything, but I have a lot to start with. So at least you can do something from the beginning. And they usually get the product after about 5 to 7 days of me creating it. They'll get the product. I give them the 2 weeks to test it out, write down their pros and cons list after they received it. And then we usually meet back up in about a week's time to like really flesh out all of the pros and cons. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. What do they feel about the product? Because this is something that ends up being made in bulk, and I want them to love the product. I don't want, I kind of like this, I kind of like that. I want you to absolutely fall in love with the product. I don't want the product to get to you in bulk, and now you're thinking, oh God, what am I supposed to do? Because I didn't really like the scent or the color or the feel of this product. So they get that time to do the pros and cons. We flesh it out. If there's any tweaks that we need to make, thicker, thinner, smell more, smell less, any of those, I make those tweaks. We do another sample again. And then usually after the first or second sample, I can get a confirmation that they want to start the line and they create the product and we do bulk order from there.
I love it. It's so cool to me. It's so like fascinating. I wasn't good at like science and chemistry and stuff when I was in school. I was like, no thanks. No, I'm good. Like it's just it goes over my head literally. But this is so interesting. Probably because it's something that I actually like, love talking about now because
Right.
it's skincare. So, what are some of your favorite ingredients to work with? Do you have like top faves?
Yes, definitely a top three. Well, it changes, but I do have a top three. So it's always hyaluronic acid. I feel like people don't
Okay.
think it. it can be in every product, but it can without gelling because there's different. This is again the science part. There's different molecular weights. So a certain
Mm,
molecular weight doesn't gel as much as a serum. It can kind of
okay.
go into to a liquid product like a toner. So and it could still be hyaluronic acid. So that's one of my
Mm,
favorites. Licorice root has become a new favorite, especially for waxers. I've been making a
mm.
what do you want to call it? Like a pre-wax cleanser with the licorice root in it, and it's really nice and gentle, and it's my favorite right now.
Wow.
That's my number one. And then honeysuckle, which is really good for anti-inflammatory, and it's also just my favorite because I call my daughter honeysuckle, so it's another like a little passion. Like, oh, I love this one as well as my daughter.
Oh, that's so cool. So do you have a different approach for formulating products with like people who with different skin types? People of color versus, someone who just more on the Caucasian side, someone who's more fair skin, deeper skin. Do you have like a different process that you go through for that?
Hey, Esty Bestie. Okay, so let's be real. We all know that the wax you use can make or break your business. Are you struggling to find the right wax? Is your current wax breaking and leaving hairs behind? Well, honey, I got you because Nova Wax is here to rescue you from the headache. Nova Wax is low temperature, never breaks, and will cut your waxing time in half. Use code TheWaxingEsthetician to save 15% off on your order. Come join the Nova fam.
It's not a completely different process. I do think it all pretty much starts at that same base of understanding who your clientele is and who we're making it for. But it does change. Like I tinker percentages for brightening products. I'll tinker those to play with them and make sure that we're still keeping the pigment, but we're dealing with the hyperpigmentation itself. So for, of course, darker skin versus fairer skin, I wouldn't want a higher percentage of an acid that might be super brightening in their product. I would want to create something that's a little less. Or for dry skin, I would want something a little bit more hydrating. So I would increase a more hydrating product or ingredient inside the product. Same with moisturizing, conditioning agents, things like that. I just tinker with the numbers a bit to help the actual skin concern or type versus changing the complete formula that already works.
Okay, that makes sense. So do you think there is a certain product line that estheticians should start with? Or do you think it's better to kind of go into the more custom formulation side of things?
I do feel that it's important to start out with a product line that, is a little more established because when you first start out, it is hard to know where to go. So you want to get as much knowledge as you can, even if that means paying for a course, learning about, because I know certain big brands like Face Reality or Climate might request that you take a course before you can purchase wholesale. So I think it's important to at least learn about product lines prior to making your own, just because you need to know what works and how it's working, and not even that, learn how to retail products in general because it's completely different from retailing Face Reality or Glymed or SkinScript, which already gives you all the education and information behind it to put in front of your client and sell, versus your own product where you have to do all the talking because it's your
Mm-hmm.
product. Nobody else
Mm-hmm.
can tell about this product but you. So I think it's important to first start off with something that you've done the research on, feel confident bringing in and letting your clients use, and then build your way with that ingredient knowledge and then build up your line.
That's good. That's so good. I think it could
Yeah.
be. Do you think it's harder to sell your own products than it is to sell an established line already?
Me currently, no, but me in 2019, yes. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking how to sell this line, and nobody knows who I am, why I'm doing this, where it comes from. So it was a lot more difficult for me then without that knowledge. And now that I've tested a copious amount of product lines throughout the whole industry, I feel more confident promoting my own things in addition to and complementing what I use in the treatment room.
Okay. Yeah. So when do you think is or like um when do you think estheticians should take that next step if they are wanting to eventually get into their own product line? And this is I'm talking like established estheticians, people who like have been working with products and ingredients for a long time. When do you think is like a good what should they understand or know or look at if they're like ready to make that next step?
I believe when you're ready to make that next step, you'll be that esthetician who's already got that knowledge, of course, who has a pretty much consistent clientele and also takes the time to do the footwork, going out there, looking at products, even in the stores. I don't mean like big stores like Sephora and Ulta, and seeing what people gravitate to. Because once you learn more, not just about the audience that's within your treatment room, because I have a lot of clients who sell online and they're selling to people who don't even see them. So you want to go out there and get what you see the audience outside of just your treatment room is flocking to, take heed about it, and then also see if those might play into your future product. Once you have those three things, I do believe it's a lot easier to want to start, because then you have most people already come to me with that idea of, I want to start with a trio, like three products that work perfect together. This is what I want to do. These three ingredients I've been looking at, wanted to know if they're possible, at what rates they can be used. And usually that esthetician who's ready to build their brand and make more revenue through their own products already has all of these things laid out. They've just been waiting for the right moment.
Okay, gotcha. Makes sense. I would definitely, as a new esthetician, wouldn't go off and start my own product line. I would
Right.
not
It's
know
scary.
really what I'm doing. Yeah, it's extremely scary. Yeah, I think you definitely need to have a little bit more skin in the game to
Hmm.
in order to make that next step. Um, so, um, do you have any like resources for estheticians if they're like wanting to increase their ingredient knowledge? I know there's different books that you can purchase like online. Do you know anything in particular that's good for estheticians to get?
Currently, there is not a lot of like great ingredient like dictionaries or things
Okay.
that like have anything other than the basics. Like I see a lot of books that have like, oh, here's shea butter. This is what shea butter is. I feel like most of the world knows what shea butter is at this point. It's about learning about the PHAs, AHAs, BHAs. All of those are very like mind-boggling for some people. I haven't seen a lot of books with those in them, but I do. I still have my Milady dictionary from esthetician school. I bought it with my textbook. I have been creating some digital content that will help them understand ingredients more and even how to formulate their own products as a whole, which come out later on this month, and
Ooh.
hoping to give people the opportunity to ask more questions and learn more about it on their own and create ideas that they feel will like completely change their brand as a whole.
Yes, I love that. So talk to us a little bit about that. What inspired you to create something like this?
So basically it's called the Beauty Biz Trio. It's going to teach you how to formulate, source, and brand like a pro, pretty much. And I wanted to create it because this is something that I didn't feel was out when I was in school. It's something that I felt like if everything was all in one place, it would have been 10 times easier for me to get started, even if it was just out of school. And for all of these products, pretty much the first one is like a cosmetic vendor guide. Everywhere that I purchased products and ingredients and equipment that you see behind me, everywhere that I purchased those things, I've compiled together so that everybody can come to one place and look at everything at once and be able to source all of the products that they'll need to get started for like their mini lab. And then the second book is called Skin Alchemy, which is geared towards our estheticians, but of course anybody who wants to learn how to make products can use, and it'll help you understand the mind of from beginning to end how to formulate the product and coming down with those ideas, those pros and cons, kind of just seeing it on paper before you bring your product to reality, and understanding the formulation process and percentages on how to like write out the formula. All of those things are in the book. It's very extensive, so that's going to be one that people might take a little while to finish, but once you finish it, you'll be like, oh, I can't wait to start making my first product. And then
Yes.
the last ebook is pretty much called Brand Your Space. So one of the main things that I had a lot of clients have issues with was that, how am I supposed to get the product to sell? And I told them, I can't do it for you. You have to. And you have to know what your brand is, your audience, who you're selling to and why you're doing it. It's not just, oh, I have products and I want you to buy. It's about, this is my brand, this is why I do what I do, and this is the product that comes from that. So it teaches people how to not just set up their space to sell the product, but getting them to do more content on Instagram, treating the product as a whole brand and working it into the spaces that they need to when it comes to pushing it out into the world.
I love that you have both of those. I love that so much. Selling is like is a beast. Like it's a whole nother
It's
thing.
hard.
Like when you create a product, create ingredients and formulate a product, and then you have to sell that product. So I think that's so I love that you have
Yes.
both resources for estheticians because
It's
it's
necessary.
already so overwhelming, right? It's necessary. Like I just feel sometimes I feel like I just want to wax and that's it. But there's way more to
That's
it
it.
than
Why can't
just
I just do
waxing.
this?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, okay, so when will those be available to us for purchase?
They, they will be available October 17th, all three.
Okay, so by the time this recording is released, it will already be out, you guys. So I'll make sure to have that linked in the show notes for you guys to go and purchase. You guys are going to not regret it. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So, okay, so what advice would you give to estheticians who may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed? Should they start with your resources or should they start with something different?
Of course, my resources will be a great start. They're slow. You can pace yourself. You don't have to rush into feeling like I have to make this product now so that I understand it. But also, the best place to start is in your treatment room. Whatever skincare products you already own, take your time. Look at the ingredient list and understand what each ingredient is. It's not just the star product like a niacinamide or a retinol, but looking at the others. There's surfactants, there's emulsifiers that are in your product. Are they good for your skin? Are there parabens? Are they sulfate free? Like, you want to make sure you can take a product out of that ingredient list, put it into the internet, and see what its benefits are for the skin before you decide on trying to build a product and not really understand what each product is and why it's on the ingredient label in the first place. Most estheticians take the time to buy these products. You got to take more time into looking at the labels and understanding, is this even actually good for my clientele? So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say, I don't want to not have product, I don't want to not have retail, but you got to have the right retail for your clients. You don't want to
I
rush
agree.
it just because you're trying to make money.
I totally agree. I agree on
Yeah.
that so much. When I first started, I purchased a product line and I probably bought every single product from their product line. And I
Me too.
really Yes. See, yeah, I really didn't understand what each product did, but I loved them. I just didn't really
Mm-hmm.
understand them all. And then also, my clientele didn't really need all of those products either.
Mm.
It was just honestly, it was just a waste of money. It really was.
Right. I felt like I did the same. Like, I bought a bunch of products thinking I need all of them, and they're gonna do what they need to do. But on the long run, you're like, oh, I don't even end up using these products. I can't even tell my clients anything about these products because I don't really know them that great. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's hard to promote something that you don't know anything about.
Absolutely, I agree. So I'm glad that you said to look at the products now that you have currently in your treatment space, even if it's one or two products. Like go through each ingredient, do the research, and understand the function of each thing, and
Mm-hmm.
really evaluate and see how effective that product is with your client. And I like to ask my clients, like, I mean, you have to ask them how they're genuinely liking the product to see if they're
Yeah,
actually like if they find it worth it. Because if they're not really feeling it, and if they're not really seeing results, then what's the point of you carrying it? So
exactly.
yes. Okay, so do you have any like common myths about ingredients that you want to debunk with us?
Outside of the hyaluronic one, I do have a lot of, this is less like strictly ingredients. I have a lot of people who come to me and say, I want to make a product, but I don't want my ingredients on the label. And my biggest concern is,
Mm,
why would you not want it on the label? And they're just so fearful of someone stealing their formula. And
mm,
in my head, I'm telling them that there's no way they could steal your formula. There's no numbers on this label. There's no anything. You should focus more on making the best product possible versus worrying about if you're going to be replicated. There's so many implications that come with that on the back end of you not putting anything on this label. Let's focus on being the best product possible. So I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm so worried that somebody's going to steal this from me. Don't worry about it being stolen. They can't try. They couldn't do it if they tried. There's no way you could look at something and know exactly what's in it. So I think
exactly.
that's a big, not myth or debunking, but it's like a big thing that I see with a lot of estheticians or even hairstylists, because I do cosmetologists too. They make shampoos or beard products, things like that. They're worried about somebody stealing their formula, and I think that's the biggest misconception, is that anybody could actually do that just by looking at the label. Now me, I can go in a
Yeah.
store and look at the product and say, I could possibly figure out this formula just by looking at it, but that's me as a formulator,
Right.
not the average person who's just buying a product.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. One thing that, has been like a hot topic that people want to say for ingredients is like, oh, no parabens, no, I don't even know how to say the right name, like pathates. I don't know how to say that. But like all of the,
Yeah.
fillers that people say, don't put them in their products. Like, how do you feel about that? How would you address like talking and educating someone about those?
It's hard because there's products that need certain things, and not everything under a category is harmful for the skin. So, like you said, the phthalates, sulfates, parabens, there's certain parabens that are perfectly fine for products. They're not an issue. There's certain alcohols that are completely fine. Speaking of alcohols, for moisturizers, there's an alcohol called cetyl alcohol. People will see it on the label and they're saying, "Oh, it's drying. That's alcohol." That's not what kind of alcohol it is. There's moisturizing alcohols that make moisturizer that thickness, that texture that we all love of moisturizer. That's what makes
Mhm.
it. So it's
Mm,
a big deal to actually understand what you're looking at versus just demonizing a whole category because one person said that it should be that way. It's the same thing with people who are concerned about chemical free. Oh, I don't want any chemicals in my product. Let's stop, because water is a chemical. It's called
water.
H2O.
Okay.
So you can't you can't say I don't want any chemicals. Well, then you're not getting anything. You can't even have air
Yeah.
at that point. Like
Oh,
I don't know how else to
okay.
explain it. So
Yeah.
it's hard when people demonize a whole category versus taking the time to learn about each one. And there's other beneficial ingredients that are under those same categories that you're worried about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, everyone.
Knowledge
Okay.
is
And you
power.
as us as estheticians, as professionals, the more knowledgeable we are on ingredients, the better it will just elevate our services and just really help create a different experience and just, kind of categorize ourselves in a different space than other professionals or even people who really don't understand ingredients. I just think it's so important for you to just know what it is that you are using. And I know that it's a lot of information. Like I get overwhelmed because there's so many ingredients. Like I said, I wasn't good
Yes.
in science. I just wasn't good at it. But I just think it's the posture of how we, of us being willing to learn and being willing to
Yes.
educate ourselves. So
Yep.
purchasing, getting resources, getting, dictionaries, like looking over your Milady books, doing everything that you can possible to really just make sure that you're just educating yourself. So
Yeah. That's the most important part. That's doing the work is really what's most important.
doing the work. That's it right there. Okay. Well, it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation with you. Like I've learned so much and I can't wait to just like go back and listen to this because I'm just going to be like taking notes and everything. And I hope that you guys have taken your notes and writing these things down. So are there any final thoughts that you would love to give to fellow estheticians, business owners, anything surrounding ingredients or cosmetics?
When it comes to creating your own products, it's about being ethical and being transparent. If you can't be those two things, then that is a big deal breaker, not just as a formulator, as an esthetician, as a person. So those are the most important when it goes into becoming a formulator, creating your own products. It's being transparent and ethical. It's the only way that you can thrive in this business, I believe.
So good. People value those things. People can always tell when you're not being yourself, and when there's like
Definitely.
something to hide. Like people don't like that.
Yeah. And they can tell. I'm a big, like, I feel energy. Even if I don't know what's wrong, I'm like, oh no, there's something wrong here. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to figure it out though.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Awesome. So you are located in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, correct?
Yes, Pittsburgh.
Okay. Awesome. And are you currently offering services right now?
For private label, yes. For clients, no, because we're supposed to
Okay.
be moving to Okinawa.
Wow. That is so exciting.
Yes,
Like
it's
here
scary.
soon?
Yes, soon, very very soon.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see this journey. Are you going to be documenting this like online and everything?
As much as I can, definitely.
Yeah. I know it's scary moving. I just had a big move, so it's very very overwhelming,
It's
but I know it's
daunting.
going to be good. Yeah.
It'll be good. I'm trying to put good energy around it, and it'll be a good move.
Yes, it'll be great for you. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited for you.
thank you.
So what's Yes, of course. So what's one thing you're going to do for yourself this week that you are going to just pour into yourself and fill your cup?
I'm going to stop and just sit back with a glass of champagne at the end of this week and just breathe. It's hard. I think you can understand as a mom and a wife and doing all of our own business things as solo entrepreneurs, it's hard to just sit down and stop. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm already preparing for it on Friday. Like, I'm just going to sit down and breathe.
Yes, I'm sure you can already taste the champagne.
Yes.
I feel that. Yes, just relaxing and just kind of having some me time is so important.
Mhm.
So so important. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, you can find all of the Skin John's information down in the show notes. And that's it, you guys. That's all we have time for. And I will be seeing you guys on the next episode. Take care.